So good morning, everybody, and many thanks for joining us this morning. My name's Vicky Clarke, and I'm joined this morning by my colleague Audrey Mooney, and we'll be delivering the webinar this morning for you. So the webinar this morning is regarding the year-end process in Thesaurus Payroll Manager. So we envisage the presentation itself will be about 60 minutes long for you. For those that have just joined us, we have completed a sound check already, so I think everything should be okay sound-wise there. Just regarding any questions that you may have, so during the presentation, if you do have any questions that you would like to ask us, over on the right-hand side you have a control panel, and on there is a question section, and that's where you can type in your question and send it to us. So as I've just mentioned, it's about 60 minutes long, the presentation, and if you're able to stay with us, then we'll then do a question and answer session at the end of that time for you. The webinar itself is being recorded, so you can concentrate on what we're showing you, and then we'll send that recording on to you at the very end when we have that ready for you. And we'll also send you a copy of the PowerPoint slides as well that we're going to show you this morning. Okay. So our agenda this morning is as follows. So first of all, we'll just guide you through completing your payroll for 2017 and what you need to do there. And we'll then cover as well if you have medical insurance in your payroll and the tax relief requirements regarding medical insurance. How then to review your end of year reports and establish your P35 liability. We'll then move on to using the Revenue Online service to submit your P35 to them, and then we'll also look at how to make corrections and submit your corrections to the revenue as well. We'll also then cover your P60s and how to generate those in the software, and then we'll just finish them with just some guidance on some of the changes that are ahead for us all here in Ireland regarding Payroll Modernization, and then we'll just briefly cover what's new in our 2018 Thesaurus Payroll Manager package as well. So I'll start by passing you on to my colleague Audrey. She's going to begin with the first section of the webinar there. So thank you, Audrey.
Thanks, Vicky, and good morning, everyone. Okay, so we might be a little bit late with this one, but I suppose firstly just to talk about just completing the payroll for 2017. So all payroll frequencies for which you operate payroll must be completed prior to running your P35 or issuing P60 documents to the employees. So you would update all pay periods for the tax year by simply going to payslips and update payslips. So we will look at that just in a second. Before that, we will just talk about week 53. So although I know we're well past week 53, it's still quite a topical, it's still quite topical and still quite a frequent question on the phones for us. So just in relation to when or if there is a week 53. So week 53 occurs when there are 53 weekly payrolls in the tax year. And week 53 happens when your payday falls on the 31st of December or in a leap year on the 30th or 31st of December. In 2017, employers paying wages on a Sunday only had a requirement for week 53. So only employers paying on Sunday required 53 paydays, as there was 53 Sundays in 2017, but there weren't 53 of any other day. It's very important, to only do week 53 when it is appropriate for you. 2018, then just looking ahead, employers paying wages on a Monday will have a week 53, and it's simply, again, those employers only paying on a Monday. It's important to note, I suppose, that Thesaurus Payroll Manager will always offer a week 53 option subsequent to completion of a week 53. The reason being that different employers will require different years. So we don't know, it's the same software product, I suppose, that everybody gets, but you should only use that week 53 when it is appropriate for you. We apply the revenue rules for week 53. So when there is a requirement for week 53, there is no user action required. And we really can't stress this, I suppose, enough, but it's just important for everyone to follow Revenue's PAYE calendar, and that goes strictly by payday. Okay. we'll just talk about this and then go into the software then and just have a look at what we have just spoken about. So week 53 concession. So Thesaurus Payroll Manager automatically applies any USC cut-off points, employee tax credits and cut-off points on a week 1 basis in the week 53 payroll as per revenue regulations. If, however, an employee's normal payday has changed during this tax year or the preceding tax year, the additional USC cut-off points do not apply. Okay, so if this is the case, you do need to instruct the software where the additional USC cut-off points are not applicable. So this doesn't affect tax credits or cut-off point, standard rate cut-off points. It's simply for the USC cut-off points. So to prevent the additional USC cut-off points being allocated, you would go to Employees, Add and Amend Employees, select the employee, click on the Revenue Details tab, tick to indicate that exemptions or exclusions apply, and there's an option then to tick for the week 53 concession. So we'll have a look at that on the software now. So we'll just go into the software now and just go through what we've just spoken about. Just 1 second. Okay, so I'm in my 2017 payroll here. So the first thing we spoke about then was completing the payroll for 2017. And this is always worth reviewing because, you may have updated it but then reversed, or maybe somebody has restored in a backup, you've moved it to a different PC or whatever. So it's always important just to make sure that the payroll is still complete or, has been completed for the tax year. So I suppose the easiest way to see that is just looking at the status bar at the bottom of your screen. So you can see on my screen there, it's saying weekly last pay date the 27th of December 2017 for week 52. And then it's saying monthly last pay date the 30th of November 2017 for month 11. So I can see from my status bar here that my month 12 payroll has not been updated, or if it was updated, it's been reversed, etc. Okay. So I'm just going to look at the preview here for my month number 12. And if I'm happy that this is correct, I can simply go to Payslips and update Payslips. Enter in my pay date for month 12. It's simply defaulting to today's date. So I'm just going to pop in the pay date for month 12. Okay, and update. So it'll always give you the prompt about the backup. Now obviously we're in a test environment here, but you should always take a backup to an external location. So I'm just going to bypass it here. So it's telling me my update has been completed for month number 12. Okay. And now at the bottom of the screen you can see that the monthly last pay date has changed to the 23rd of December for month number 12. So I'm happy at that point that the payroll is, finalized for 2017. Okay. So we spoke about week 53 and, where it is relevant then, by all means use it, but only use it, as we said, where there is a requirement for that week 53. So for this employer there isn't, but I will just show you where the week 53 concession is. So if you go to Add and Amend Employees, or the process icon number 1, you can select an employee. And within Revenue Details, you have here, tick here if any exemptions or exclusions apply to this employee. Okay. And then you have the option here of tick here to exclude an employee from the week 53 USC concession. So that's where they're not entitled to those extra USC cutoff points because there has been a change of the pay date in either the current tax year or the previous tax year. Okay. So where relevant, you would just tick it and then simply click on Update. Okay. So just go back to the presentation there. Okay. So on completion of the final pay period for the tax year, then as normal you would prepare and submit the P32 revenue. So to do this, you would access the ROS menu and select P30. So you prepare the P30 that you've used to date. So, we've 2 P30 reports on the system, P30 by date or P30 by week number. I suppose this is a question that comes up a lot as well, and what is the difference? So one strictly goes by pay date, where one goes in line with the revenue tax weeks, and revenue would say that month 1 is a 5-week month, for example, so weeks 1 to 5 would be in the January column, if you like, if you do the P30 by week number. The reason we say that you use the one that you've used to date is, one, at the end of the year you will get the exact same totals, but month 1 will be up on one and down on another. So it's just, to be consistent and just keep with the same one. Okay. Okay, so you review your P30 totals then for the last month or the last quarter. So some of you may be on a quarterly return for your P30 with revenue. So you do either look at the figures for the last quarter or the last month. Okay. So you submit the P30 for the period and arrange the payment to revenue for your P30 liability, and you can simply then update the payment record within Thesaurus Payroll Manager. So again, we'll just click back into the software then and just have a quick look at that. Okay, so I can go to the ROS menu and P30. So as I said, just pick whichever P30 return you have been using to date. If you do want to change, I suppose it's advisable to change at the beginning of a tax year, but otherwise throughout the year you should stick with the same one. Okay, so I'm just going to select the P30 by date. So as I said, if you're on a quarterly return, you'll see your quarterly liability down at the very bottom of it. Otherwise, you'd be concentrating on the December column to see what's due for that last month. So I can see the liability there for December for month 12 is $5,556.76. So I can simply create the P30 by clicking on the ROS menu, selecting either monthly or quarterly, the period start date. Okay, and this will give you my liability as it does for every other pay period, and you can simply just prepare that file and upload it to ROS. Okay, and for those of you then who enter the payments on Thesaurus Payroll Manager, so again, you click on the ROS, the P30, select the P30 and click on Payments, and simply just enter in the P30 payment for that pay period. I can't remember exactly the figure, but that'll do. And the payment date then for that P30 and update. So if I look back at the P30 return now, you can see the payment is now in for December as entered on the P30 payments record. Okay. Okay. I suppose this is a subject that nobody really likes or enjoys, but just in relation to employer-paid medical insurance. So where an employer pays medical insurance on behalf of employees, employers are required to include the portion of the medical insurance premium that is eligible for tax relief for each employee on the P35. Medical insurance providers will advise employers of the amounts for each employee, and I suppose we get calls a lot of the time asking us what figure to put in. Unfortunately, it does have to come from the medical insurance provider. So these amounts must be input into the payroll for all applicable employees prior to submitting the P35. And Thesaurus Payroll Manager will not allow you to prepare the ROS P35 until it sees that you've entered that for all the applicable employees. So just we know that the return would fail without that information. So therefore we just don't allow you to prepare it until it has been entered. So this only affects employers with employees on the payroll for whom there is a medical insurance benefit present within the payroll. Okay. So from the utilities menu, you would choose input medical insurance eligible for tax relief. And all employees will be listed. So you can just choose the first employee for whom a medical insurance benefit exists, and then enter the tax relief at source. So we can just have a look at that in the software now. Okay, so utilities, and input medical insurance eligible for tax relief. So as I said, it will list all of employees. Now, I've only 2 employees on this monthly payroll. So if you choose somebody that doesn't have a medical insurance benefit on the payroll, you'll see that there's 0 here for medical insurance entered as a benefit. So if you're not sure whether or not, maybe if it's a bureau or that, and you're dealing with a lot of employees, if you see a 0, then it means, a benefit in kind for medical insurance hasn't been entered within the payroll. So just choose Mary there. You can see the medical insurance entered as a benefit of €987. So either enter in the amount of tax relief at source per the insurance provider or the amount eligible for tax relief. So whichever one you enter to source will calculate the other if you like. Okay. So if the full amount is eligible for tax, you can simply just enter in the same figure. Okay. And update. Okay. So that's required for every person that has a medical insurance benefit in kind on the roll. Okay. So interview reports then. So I suppose maybe some people don't do this, they just assume everything is okay. But I mean, it's worthwhile just reviewing the interview reports that are within the payroll and just ensure that you're happy with the information on those reports. So you can access the P35 report by going to P35 P60's menu, and there's a nice little report there, the P35 spreadsheet file copy. And this lists all employees that have been paid throughout the tax year for all pay frequencies. So it's bringing employees together on one return. Okay. And this report is also, it's available throughout the year. So as you know, we release an end of year upgrade every year, September, October time. But this is a report that's available, throughout the entire year. All other, I suppose, end of year reports are not available until we have ran the end of year upgrade. So employees' wages as processed each pay period are accumulated and displayed, and this is the information that will be transferred onto the P35 ROS file. So there's a few checks that you should do. So one is to ensure that all employees employed during the tax year are listed, and ensure that all employees have a PPS number present, or if you don't have a PPS number, that you have the address and date of birth for the employee. But where there has been a deduction of LPT, a PPS number is mandatory, otherwise the file will fail with ROS. Okay. And if any employee had multiple employments during the tax year, the Thesaurus Payroll Manager will automatically amalgamate those records for the P35, for the ROS P35. So if you had somebody who was with you, they left and they came back, that will result in just one record on the ROS P35, because revenue will only accept one record per PPS number. So the system does that automatically. You don't necessarily need to worry about it. Okay. So if there's any errors or omissions on the report, you should correct these before you proceed to preparing and submitting the P35. Reverse update function can be used to revise any historical payroll information if appropriate. So if you realise perhaps somebody was due to get a bonus and it needs to be entered on the 2017 payroll, you could reverse it. You just enter the payment just to correct it on the system. For any information that has been omitted, so if you've omitted somebody's PPS number, or you don't have their PPS number and need to enter in perhaps their date of birth or address, you can do that by simply to employees and add and amend employees. So for some things you'd be reversing the payroll, where others then you'd be accessing the employee record to enter additional information or to make some changes. And just if you reverse the payroll, just make sure that you update it again. Okay. So we just have a quick look on the software then of the P30 spreadsheet file copy. Okay, so as we said, P35 P60 and P35 spreadsheet file copy. So this is listing, as we said, all employees that have been paid throughout the tax year. Okay, so it's showing you their PPS number, for example, all of the payment details, their insurable weeks, a start date if it's relevant, cessation date, etc. Okay, and you can see there the eligible insurance, the medical insurance eligible for tax relief that we entered for Mary is showing there on the P35 spreadsheet file copy. Okay. Okay. So prior to submitting the P35, the payment status should be established. So you should be aware, I suppose, is there a balance payable to revenue on submission of the P35 in addition to perhaps the periodic P30 payment made on account? Maybe there's been an overpayment, therefore you're in a reclaimable position, or perhaps there's a zero balance. But you just should be aware, I suppose, of that payment status before you upload your P35. I suppose there shouldn't be any surprises at that stage. You should know everything beforehand. So you should reconcile payments made to revenue as per the ROS account, and this can be done by preparing a ROS statement of 2017 payments on account. Okay, so to prepare a ROS statement of 2017 payments that you've made on account, you can check your P30 periodical payments made on account to revenue for the tax year 2017 by logging into the ROS account and selecting Revenue Record. So on the options menu then on the left-hand side, if you select payments, and then the tax type, if you select PAYEMP, and just ensure that the tax year is 2017. Okay. all payments made for the tax year will be displayed on screen. Okay, so just review those and just make sure that you're happy. I suppose that you're reconciling before you may perhaps go any further with your P35 return. Okay. So the P35 deadline is the 15th of February, or employers that cease trading, it's 46 days after cessation of the business, but for the most part it's the 15th of February. So when you are satisfied that your payroll is complete for the tax year, you can prepare and submit the P35, and this is, as we said, when your checks are done and your reconciliations, etc. To prepare the ROS P35, again you go to the P35 P60s menu and choose ROS P35. Okay. So if there are any validation issues that come up, they should be resolved before you go any further with this. Select continue. So it'll default to a location of C ROS P35L. So that's where the file will be saved to for submitting to ROS, and you can simply just click on prepare file. Again, we'll just pop back into the software there for a moment. Okay, so as I said, P35 P60s and ROS P35. Okay, so generally we'll give you this message then just to say that you should make sure that you're on the latest version of the software. Now, providing you have an internet connection, the software will prompt you when there is an upgrade available. But there's no harm just to go to the help menu and check for updates, and that'll just confirm that you're on the latest version. Okay. So just go back to the ROS P35. Okay. So if you see a message coming up, validation failed, then the program thinks there's something, something or some things that you need to do. So it's telling me that there is information required or invalid information. Now it does give you the option of getting a printout of the validation issues. Now, if I simply just move that across, so I don't want to print that. So it's telling me there's no PPS number entered for monthly employee Mary Byrne, and in addition, no date of birth has been entered for this employee. So this is, I suppose, something I want to do. It's a correction, but it's just entering additional information. So I don't need to reverse the payroll. I can simply just go to add and amend employees, select the employee, and just enter in the PPS number. Okay, and update. So now if I go back to P35, P60s and ROS P35. Okay, so my validation message is gone. So I have everything that the system thinks I need, has already been entered. So if I want to pop in the employer, yes, I can. It's not a mandatory field though. So I can click on continue. As I said, the location will default to C, ROS and P35L. So that's where you would browse within ROS to upload the file to them and prepare file. Okay, so I'm getting an error message there just to say due to inconsistencies in your data, and I think I know what's happened. I put my PPS number in for Mary Byrne, and I must already have it in for somebody else. 1 second. Okay, so that's what it is. I've been overusing my own PPS number. But ordinarily, if you got that message, obviously it is highlighting to you that there is something wrong. So it's telling me now that my ROS P35 has been copied to the specified location, and the name of it will always be the last 5 characters of the employer PAYE reference number, dash the year, and .P35. Okay. So if you wish, you do have the option of viewing the ROS P35 XML file. That's not the easiest thing to read, but this is the revenue spec. So some people like to look at it. Okay, so that just opens up for you there just in the, as of the revenue format. But you do have your own printouts that you can do from the software then, which are a little bit easier to read. Okay, so I'll just close that. So I'm just going to hand you over to Vicky then. She's going to just take you through, I suppose, uploading the P35 to ROS, etc. So if you just bear with us just for a moment, we just swap seats. Thank you, Vicky.
Many thanks, Audrey. So just bear with me there while I just bring the slides back up for you. Okay, So Mooney has prepared the P35 file there. So when you are ready, that file is now ready for upload into your Revenue Online Service account. So to access your ROS account, you can go to the Revenue website, www.revenue.ie, and here you can select the ROS login option. This will bring you through to the screen that you're seeing here. All you need to do is select your certificate, and then enter the equivalent password, and then click the Log into ROS option here. This will then bring you through automatically to the My Services screen, and here you'll be given a number of options, but the option you're going to be choosing in order to upload your P35 is the section where it says Upload Forms Completed Offline. Here you have a drop-down menu, and in that listing you will find P35L as shown here, and once you've selected that you can just click on Upload Return. This will open up a brand new window for you, and what you need to do here is click the Add File button here as shown by the red arrow, and then browse to the location of where you have saved your P35 file. So by default, as Audrey has just shown you in the software, the P35 file we save to a default location of your C drive, your ROS folder, and your P35L folder. So if you haven't changed that location, then that's the place to browse to. When you find the file, it will be entitled the last four numbers of your employer, POIE number, the letter, and the year. So in this instance, we have an example here, it'd be 4567E, for example, and then 17 for the 2017 tax year. So select that file, and on the screen you're going to press open, and you'll find that file then appears in your box here. This will be blank before you do this process, so make sure that file is showing in the box highlighted here. Once it's here, then you just need to enter your password again and click Upload File here. So at this point, ROS will read everything that's in that P35 ROS file that you've just uploaded, and you will now find that your P35L, your P35LT, if applicable, your P35LF and P35 declaration will all display on screen for you. And it's like, as I say, it's just being read directly from that P35 file upload. What you also see on this screen as well is your P30 payment details, and this will total all payments you have submitted for 2017. Again, we just must point out here that these figures are taken directly from your account with revenue and not from the payment record screen that Audrey showed you a little earlier that's available within Thesaurus Payroll Manager. Sometimes there is confusion that the figures don't match. You know, your payment record in Thesaurus isn't matching what's showing on this screen. So to just bear in mind, it's what you have actually you know, what's in your account with revenue, what's been paid over basically. So those figures are coming from there. Your P35 summary, which will be will then tell you, there'll be three things you'll see here. Either you have a balance outstanding that needs to be paid, whether you have a nil balance outstanding, so you know you've completely paid up and everything's matching as it should, or if you are in a refund situation, okay? And again, it's just worth pointing out here that this calculation is being derived from the payments that you've made on account and the total liability for the year from the P35 file that you've just uploaded. So it's really the totals in the P35 file minus payments on account to tell you whether you have a balance or a refund or you're paid up to date, basically, okay? So depending on, I suppose, the summary there, whether you have a balance outstanding or not, to proceed then with the P35 submission, you are given a choice then of what you can opt to do. If you do have a balance outstanding, you can choose to make that payment at this point. So you're going to make a payment through the submission process as well. Or you can choose to file return only. So this option really you'll be going for if you are in a refund position or if you wish to make a payment at a later date, or you know you've got nothing outstanding at all. Okay. It's also worth pointing out as well, again, that if the amount due is equal to the December P30, so if you have a balance outstanding, and that's equal to your December P30, and you the arranged payment of that, then do not repeat the payment. There can be timing issues that you have arranged payment, but it just hasn't been updated yet on revenue side. So just bear that in mind. If you think, well, I'm going to have actually paid that already or it's pending, do not repeat payment, otherwise you'll be overpaying there. Okay. So if you choose to make a payment with the P35 submission, okay, choose that option, and this will bring you through to the screen that you're seeing here now. What you need to do first of all then is just select your payment method. So you can go for ROS debit instruction or card payment there. And then underneath, the amounts due per POAE, PRSI, USD, LPT, etc. will be displayed. Okay. All you need to do is enter the total amount of the payment you're making, enter the date of the payment, and if you are paying by ROS debit instruction, this can be set to the 23rd of February as well. You have that little bit longer there. Then when ready, click on Next. Okay. This is really, I suppose, one of the final screen here. You just need to make sure everything is okay here. Click on OK, and what that will do then, it will then give you the option to sign and submit, and that really is then you signing off on that submission. So that is the final step that you're making. Okay, as soon as you click that sign and submit button, what you should get back then is an acknowledgement confirmation number on screen. We recommend that you make a note of that number because that's proof that your submission has been successful submitted, and if there's any question over that, you can always quote that confirmation number to the revenue. And also an acknowledgement of your P35 return is also going to be sent to your ROS inbox as well. Okay. Sorry, I'm just on a screen here. I just clicked ahead of myself there. But if you then choose not to make a payment, so you're going for the file return only option, obviously you're going to select that option given to you. And the process is very much the same here. So you're going to just check over everything. When you click on Next here, again, you're going to be given the option to sign it and submit. And again, it's the same process. That is you submitting your P35 point of return, really, and then you'll get the acknowledgement confirmation number again, and again, a copy into your ROS inbox as well. Okay. Okay, so that is the process. I just want to cover if you have multiple payrolls operating under one POIE number. This might not be applicable to a lot of you if you just have one setup of the Thesaurus Payroll Manager and all your employees are, running within that. But what can happen, I'll give you two examples really where multiple payrolls may arise. Just keeping for example, you could be a shop and you could have several branches, but those branches all operate under the same POIE number. It could be that, the shop in Dublin, you do your own payroll, the shop in Cork, does their own payroll as well. But basically, at the end of the year, all those different branches, they need to be amalgamated together and one P35 submission done. Okay. Another example of where multiple payrolls may occur is, I'll just use Audrey as my example here. It could be that myself and Audrey do the payroll for one company, but for whatever reason we've decided to split the payroll up. So on my own computer, I'm maybe doing the weekly employees. Audrey, on her own computer, also has the Thesaurus Payroll Manager installed as well, her own copy, and she's doing the monthly employees. That means the payroll is split up. So at the time of submitting your P35, we need to be able to get the two parts of the payroll back together and upload them all at the same time. Okay, so this can be done. Okay, and it's important that all parts of the P35 are uploaded at the same time. That for example, if Audrey goes ahead and uploads her part and I haven't done mine, then you're going down a supplementary P35 route instead. Okay, so it can be done. To facilitate the upload of the P35 file to ROS from multiple payroll setups, what you need to do is basically prepare the P35 files from each of the software, first of all, and save them all into one folder. They all have to be in the one folder there. Okay, I'm just going to pop back just, if I can just bring the desktop screen here. So for example, say I go and prepare my P35 file in my weekly payroll, okay, and I save that file here. I have a folder set I just want to show you actually, okay. So my P35 is going to be called, you know, it's going to be the standard format of the last 4 letters of my employer number, the letter and the year. So you can see here 4567E70 P35, okay. Say Audrey also then needs to prepare her P35, her monthly employees, okay. I have to put Audrey's P35 file in the same folder as my own here if I'm going to be uploading this. Obviously, we can't have 2 files with the same name in the same folder, so one of us just has to rename our files slightly. So I've renamed one, I've just popped A at the end, okay? And that just allows me then to put the 2 files in the one folder, okay? That means then, if I can just pop back to the PowerPoint here, when I'm at this add file stage, so when I've logged into ROS and chosen to upload, like, you know, a form completion line, when I click on add file, what I'm going to do is hold down my control button on my keyboard, and when I'm in the folder where my 2 P35 parts are, I select them both together. And that means that they'll both come into this box at the same time. And when the 2 files are here, then when I click on upload file here, ROS will merge those 2 P35 files for me. So the following will then have the, I suppose, the amalgamation of the 2 P35s together. Okay, so that is how you facilitate that. Okay, it is just worth pointing out though that for this to work, you cannot have the same employees in the 2 P35 files, if I'm using this example here. So they have to be, I suppose, independent in each of the payrolls. If, you know, you've got employees in both P35 files, it's going to fail and they will need to be taken out of one and popped into another, okay? But if you do need any further information on that, please do contact us and we can talk you through it a little bit more, okay? So what happens if you want to make corrections and you have already submitted your original P35? Okay, so 2 additional P35 files can be submitted to revenue. One being the amended P35 and the second one being a supplementary P35. So there is a difference between them. An amended P35 is used where an employer wishes to change the details relating to an employee who has already been included on your original P35 return. So you've put your original through, the employee was on that file. You now need to possibly reopen their payslip, make a change, refinalize, and then, you know, report that amendment to ROS. Okay, so that's why you do an amended P35. What happens with the amended P35 is that it will completely replace your original P35 that you have previously filed. So it's going to go over the top of it, basically. So it is important that before submitting your an amended P35, that you have received your receipt for your original P35 before you go ahead and attempt to do an amended one, okay? Thesaurus Payroll Manager can facilitate an amended P35 for you. It's the screen that Audrey showed you before. Just bear with me, I'll just bring it up. Okay, if I go into P35 here, ROS P35, okay. If it's an amended P35, just tick the button at the bottom to say that amended and you have already submitted P35 details for these employees. Click on yes to confirm that's what you want to do and press continue and prepare file. And that will then be programmed to be an amended P35, and the submission process that I just talked you through is the same again there, just for actually uploading that to ROS. Okay. Okay. A supplementary P35, on the other hand, is where you have submitted your original P35 return, but you have omitted one or more employees from that P35 return. So missed employees, for example, or as I've just mentioned there, multiple payrolls where maybe I've gone ahead and I've uploaded my part of the P35 too soon and my colleague hasn't, for example. This is where a supplementary P35 would be needed. Okay. In comparison to the amended P35, which replaces the original completely. Supplementary P35 will simply add an employee record to the original return that you have made. And again, we can't stress enough here that you must make sure that you have received a receipt of acceptance for your original P35 before you go ahead and attempt to do a supplementary one. Okay. If it's just maybe 1 or 2 employees that have been missed from the original, then you can do an online supplementary P35, okay, that you can do online there with ROS, okay. We do have an option to do a supplementary P35 in the Payroll Manager, but it's only where everybody on that particular payroll has been omitted. So again, going back to running multiple payrolls, where, you know, maybe somebody's completely forgotten to, you know, upload their part of the P35 there. Okay, I'll just show you where that is as well. Okay, and again, it's in the same screen here, so you'd be going to, I'll just cancel out here, P35, ROS P35, and tick that it's a supplementary one, okay? But just bear in mind it's where everybody on this particular payroll has been omitted. You can't be where there's just a single employee that's been missed here. You'd have to just do an online supplementary P35 to facilitate that. Okay. Okay, so the final task is then to make sure that you issue your P60s to your employees, okay? And a P60 is just an employee certificate of income and deductions for the tax year in question. It's a question we get a lot, actually, just regarding who should get a P60. They are only issued to employees who are still in active employment as at the 31st of December. So if somebody is left on the 30th of December, they will not be entitled to a P60. If an employee, however, is left on the 31st of December, they will also, you know, as well as getting their P45, they will be entitled to receive a P62. Your requirement is just to give 1 copy to each employee who requires 1, okay? And your deadline for issuing your P60s is the 15th of February, okay? Revenue do advise that P60s need only be made available to employees, so that means that you can basically email your P60s to your employees if it suits you better rather than printing them out. So those are options for you. It used to be that Revenue used to provide P60 stationery. That has now been discontinued. So all payroll software providers are allowed to basically generate a P60 template for you, which will print to blank A4 paper for you. Okay. And that P60 template is in accordance with Revenue guidelines, and it matches everything that is required by them. Okay. If required as well, if you wish the P60s to be in the Irish language, you can choose that option in the software as well, and it will print in Irish for you. Okay. So to print or email your P60s in Payroll Manager, you're just going to pop into the P35 and P60 menu there. I'll just go back into the software. So that. Okay. So you're just going to go to P35 P60s here, okay, and choose the P60 option. So here I have 2 employees on my monthly payroll here. So if I just want to have a print preview of that before I press print, I can tick to preview on screen, press print, and there you can see the P60 there as well. Okay, so you can just check if it looks as it should. If you wish to email, then you can choose the email option here. I don't have any employees with email addresses in, but if I did, they would be listed here for you, and that will just allow you to press the email button here. It's currently grayed out, but that will then obviously send the P60s directly to the employees for you. Okay. Here is the option to have them in the Irish language. Okay. There we go. That's the Irish P60 for you. Okay, and if you've had anybody on your payroll for the full year with 0 pay and you wish to print out a 0 pay P60 for them, you can tick the button there at the bottom to be able to do that. By default, we don't print the 0 pay P60s. Okay, if you have 2 pay frequencies as well, obviously this is monthly, you can see at the top here. You just then repeat that process by switching into your other pay frequency. and going into the P60 option there as well. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that's your P60s there. Okay. And now just in the PowerPoint, we just have a copy of what the P60 looks like as well. I just wanted to point out there as well, it is important with the P60 template that we have, there's an awful lot to fit on it. And if you have your paper setting to be letter size, you may find that when maybe a test just one employee just to make sure everything's okay, you may find that the P60 is coming out on two pieces of paper. So it's important that you do set your your paper size to A4 in order for that P60 to print on one sheet only. So if you do have a lot of employees, P60s to print off, just do one first of all, just make sure it's printing as it should before you do a batch run of those. Okay. Also as well, if you are a user of Thesaurus, which is an optional add-on to Thesaurus Payroll Manager, that when you finalize your final pay period, your employees' P60s will be synchronized to their employee self-service portal as well. So employees will be able to access their P60 in their portal, and that will then eliminate the need for you to print or email them from the software as well. They'll automatically be synchronized back up there. Okay. Okay, so that's my part done there. I'm just going to pass you back to Audrey just to complete the webinar.
Thanks, Vicky. Just 1 second there, sorry. Okay. So many of you might have heard of PAY Modernization and some of you may not. So just to go over, I suppose, the main points of PAY Modernization. So what it means is it will mean real-time reporting for payroll, and it comes into effect the 1st of January 2019. So this means every time you pay your employees from the 1st of January 2019, a file must be sent electronically to Revenue, which will detail pay, deductions and, leaver information. Contents of the file will be, I suppose, very similar to the current annual P35, but just the difference is that you'll be submitting it every single pay period. So this real-time information will enable Revenue to ensure that employees are receiving their correct tax credits and cut-off points. So I think Revenue would tell you at the moment that they can identify, every year when P35s are submitted, that many employees are not in receipt of correct tax credits and cut-off points, which then leads to either underpayments of tax or overpayments. So this means they can just review them, and they'll, be all, I suppose, aware immediately if somebody is in receipt of incorrect tax credits or cut-off points, and they'll enable them to, identify it and get that corrected. Under PAY Modernization, employees will also be able to log into their Revenue account, and among other things, they can view the information that the employer has submitted in respect of them. So, at the moment, I suppose we don't see anything in our Revenue account with the exception of our tax credit certificate, until the end of the tax year when the P35 has been submitted. But once PAY Modernization launches, you'll be able to log in at any time throughout the year and see, your year-to-date information as submitted by your employer. So PAY Modernization should simplify the entire process. Obviously it's daunting, it's new, it's very different. But in the long run, I suppose it should simplify the payroll process, because it will bring the abolition of so many of the returns, which will be replaced with the new periodic submissions. The payroll software will automatically submit the periodic file to Revenue using your Revenue user credentials without the need for you to physically upload the file on the ROS website. So at the moment for the P35, P30, etc., you're logging into ROS and uploading a file to them, where this will go seamlessly from the payroll software to ROS without the need to log into ROS. Okay. So you can see there the P45, P46, P45 Part 3, P60, P30 and P35 will all be gone once PAYE Modernization is launched. So if you think about, I suppose, your payroll process at the moment, if you didn't have any of those submissions, you know, how simple I suppose things would be. So it'll just become part of periodic as you'll submit the file to revenue. And there's none of that, I suppose, workload then at year end involving P60s, P35, etc. Okay. So in addition then, the payroll software will automatically get updated with employee credits and cut-off points, again without the need to check, you know, ROS, download P2C files from the ROS website and import them into the software. So again, an automated process of retrieving that information from ROS. Okay. Illness benefit then, I suppose, has been facilitated by the new system, but the exception here is, I suppose, that it just didn't wait for the launch of PAYE Modernization. So with effect from the 1st of January 2018, illness benefit, you know, is being taxed by revenue, and they're taxing it via a reduction in tax credits and cut-off points. So this, I suppose, will see a rise in the number of P2C files being issued in respect of employees because, you know, it's taxed, as I said, by the reduction of tax credits and cut-off points, and that will be relayed to employers then via the P2C files. Okay, so I suppose this is working in a similar way to how revenue have been taxing both maternity and paternity benefit for the last maternities been taxed since 2013, is it? Yeah. So I suppose that was maybe a tester for revenue, but I suppose with illness benefit you can have more than one illness benefit period within a tax year, which is maybe why they delayed in doing so. So you will notice that, I suppose, illness benefit, you know, has gone out of the software because it's, you know, just no longer relevant for employers to tax the illness benefit, and employers no longer receive the illness benefit letters either. Okay. So the payment arrangements to revenue will continue as they are. So if you're on a monthly payment scheme with revenue, so if you pay your P30 monthly, you'll still continue to pay them monthly, but I suppose the difference is that they will know how much they're due to get from you because of the periodic submissions that you have made to them. Okay. So it should be a positive change for employers, although, as we said, it will be daunting, and maybe especially at the beginning of 2019 where you have that crossover, you know, where you've got your P35 for 2017 along with, I suppose, the new system for 2018. But hopefully, as we said, a positive move. So we are liaising with revenue through the payroll software representative body, the PSDA, which is the Payroll Software Developers Association. And this is just to help ensure that the final version of PAYE Modernization, I suppose, is seamless, you know, for everybody, that it's workable with implementation on the 1st of the 1st, 2019. We're lucky, I suppose, in that we have, you know, developed similar functionality in the UK. So I suppose our programmers, developers have already experienced a bit of a side of real-time reporting. So that should, you know, that should help us certainly. Okay, I suppose just to say there won't just, you know, our pricing structure will stay as is. There won't be any additional charge for any extra functionality that is required with PAYE Modernization. So it'll be done for you, but your, you know, the software price will stay the same. Okay. Okay, so just to finish up then, we're just going to look at some new features for 2000, you know, that we have brought into 2018. So we have automatically, I suppose, brought in the budget changes, but in addition to those, we have new features in the 2018 Thesaurus Payroll Manager. So some of these, I suppose, have been prompted by the upcoming PAYE Modernization, and then others then, I suppose, have been prompted with the GDPR changes that are coming in. So we'll just go through the features now and have a quick look on the software, and then we'll be able to get into our questions and answers. Okay, so you may have noticed some of these or all of these, so I won't keep you for too long. But password retrieval, I suppose, is now an automated process. So you possibly noticed that when you imported your payroll files into 2018, that you may have received a message about password retrieval. So I'll just bring up the message now. Sorry. Let me just pick the other one. Okay. So you may have seen this message about a password recovery email. So basically it's telling me here that I do have an employer email address. Anybody who has been mailing payslips or PDs will have an employer email address in. And that employer email address can now be used for, a forgotten password. So I'll bring you in just to file and amend company details just to show what else is in here. Okay. So we have an employer email address in there. That will be used for the password recovery email address unless I choose to enter a separate email address in here. So this means that if you go to open the software, you can't remember a password, frequent enough call or query that we get, you will be able to just click on forgot password and it will email an overriding password to this email address that you have here. Okay, as I said, if you haven't put one in, it'll use the employer email address, but you can have different ones if you wish. I suppose we mentioned the taxation of illness benefit has changed from the 1st of January 2018. And as I said, that has resulted or will result in more frequent P2C files being issued for employees. So there's now more emphasis, I suppose, on P2Cs. They're no longer, once a year for most people. It's just very important that check is done. What we have done is the ROS menu in P2C. We have this option for view logs. I'm in the wrong company again, 1 second. So we just have a complete log of all the P2C files that you have imported for the tax year. So ROS P2C logs. So there's the log of P2C that I have imported so far in 2018. So it shows you, I suppose, the employee information. And on the right-hand side, you can see the date of the P2C file and then the date that P2C file was imported. Additionally, as you go to update payroll and the Thesaurus Payroll Manager can see that you haven't imported a P2C file, you'll get a message telling you that you haven't, I suppose, stressing the importance of it. And on top of that then, when you go to update payslips, you can see here we now have an extra section, latest P2C details imported. So I suppose it's constantly there for you as a reminder, and it's, I suppose, just more important than ever just to check for P2Cs, maybe not always wait for an email from revenue. Do tell us sometimes they don't get an email about an amended P2C file. So there's no harm periodically just to check ROS and see if there are amended P2Cs. So another new feature that we have then is direct emailing of a single PDF document containing all employee payslips. So if I go to print payslips, you new option here of email payslips as one PDF document. So perhaps you're a bureau and you're doing payroll for clients and you want to email all the payslips to, somebody in your clients, like the manager within the client's business, etc. So this to email all of these payslips as one PDF document. So instead of having to go and print them to PDF separately, etc., this will just go directly from the software. Again, I'm just going to bring you back into File and Amend Company Details. So you have this option now for report emailing. So you can put in the email address for the reports to be emailed to. And again, in addition to that, then you can put in a password. So this is just to protect the PDF documents. And again, with GDPR, I suppose, going on, we all need to stay safe. So we would certainly advise putting a password in to protect the PDF documents. Also put in the address to CC. So if you need to send it to two individuals, you can put in the employer email address and also a CC email address. Okay, so just back to the payslips. So as I said, you can just click on email payslips as one PDF, just select them there, email payslips as one PDF document. So it's coming up then to ask me, would I like to email the payslips to, and it'll give you the email address. And you can say yes, and it'll just email it, or no, then if you need to make a change. Okay. So similar to that then, we have the same feature for the payroll preview, payroll summary and P30 reports. I suppose the payroll preview is probably one we got a lot where somebody needs maybe to get a sign off, before they can actually, finalize the payroll. So this is a handy one now that you can just email. So it could be the manager or the manager director that you need to just email it off to get approval before you would finalize the payroll. So again, just by simply clicking on email, it'll come up asking, would you like to email the report? Okay. So I'll just say yes there. Okay, so the message was sent. So generally then within a couple of minutes, you'll have received that email attachment. So we have the same option then for the payroll summary. Okay, so I'm not going to email them all, or I'll have lots of emails when I go back to my desk. But again, you can just click on email just to email that report directly from the software, and the same then for the P30. Okay, just email. I suppose that really was probably customer request really for those new features. Okay, so another thing we have then in the software is the ROS employee list. Didn't really need to go back in there. Sorry. Okay, so during 2018, Revenue are going to be looking to align their records, and I suppose this is revenue sharing for PAYE Modernization. So they want to list all of the employees to all the different employers. So it's an alignment exercise for you. So just to help them with that, they request a employee listing. So we have this included in the software. Under the ROS menu, you have a list of employees. So this is a new file. As I said, you won't do anything until Revenue requests this from you, but we just have it programmed into the software so that it's ready to go when they do request it. Between July and October, they will be requesting this submission. So similar to the P35, you go in the employee address and contact details if you wish. Click on continue, prepare file. Okay, so it's coming up just to say that it has been saved, so it goes into the C drive on the ROS folder by default. And similar to the P35, then you can view the XML. That's a very simple, there's no earnings on it, there's simply just employee names really and their PPS number. So they will be looking for that, and it's there on the software ready to go. Okay, I suppose another very common query we get is that an employee has been with the employer, has left and has come back, and people are wishing to add that employee back to the payroll. The option of I suppose copying a previous leaver record to the payroll to create a new record for them. So when you go to add amended employees, you'll now see this on the right hand side for leave question mark. So if I click on that, that will list any employee to P45 to either this year or last year. Okay, so if Joe has returned to the employer, I can simply just double click on him. So it's now created a new record for me with his details, and I can just click on update, sorry, of course, the pre-RSI class, sorry. So the name and address, PPS from the old record. Okay, so I can put in a PRSI class and his new start date. Okay, and update. So you would still need to import a P2C file, with the employee coming back to you, but this allows you then just to set them up quickly on your payroll to either submit so it's just, again, a time-saving exercise just to go and enter all of the details again. Okay. So just one last thing to show then, so this is only relevant to use, but when you launch the payroll and it comes up with a list of your employers, you now have an option on the right hand side for late payroll. Again, this is thinking ahead to PAYE Modernization, where all systems will have to be sent to Revenue on or before payday. So this late payrolls then will just allow you to see, I suppose, what payrolls, if any, are currently late. So I'll just click on it there. Okay, now when you have two employers, about 50% late, which is not great. Employer or employers where the system feels the payroll is late. So it tells you the number of employees, the period, etc. So you can see weekly, days, and last payroll 23, just recognizing the no payroll done for this for the employer for the year. Weekly payroll may be late. Now, I can see there monthly days since last payroll 23, but it's not saying it's late because it's assuming that you have the full month of January there, the monthly payroll. So again, just a new feature just in light of PAYE Modernization. Okay, so we should be good then to move on to any questions that we have. So just bear with us there for a second.
Okay, thanks Audrey. We just have a few questions coming in there, just bear with me there. do have any questions just based on what we've gone through this morning, if you just want to use your control panel there, the question section, just fire away there. Just see what's come in already. So first question we have a P30 due to come out by direct debit on the 26th of January and realised figures are incorrect. Can they be amended before payment is due?
Okay, a ROS debit instruction I would have upload a P30 to them, which should then be taking those figures into account. Outstanding will be different. But I would imagine at this stage, possibly not. Now, I mean, I suppose the best advice I could give maybe would be to contact revenue and just see if it's before they could have already requested that money from the bank. So perhaps, it's only 3 days away, it may be too late.
Are you obliged to an employee who is only with you for part of 2017 with a P60? So, yeah, I suppose it depends what part of 2017 with you. If he is still in your employment at the 31st of December 2017, then he's entitled to, and when he's required to give him a P60. So say he started on the 1st of November as an example, he's still with you at the end of the tax year, then yes, he gets a P60. If, however, he's left a year, then no, he just gets his P45 basically. Okay. Do I have to account for maternity leave in 2018?
Okay. To maternity benefit, I'd say the question is really, revenue tax maternity benefit using the employee's tax credits and cut-off points. Now, that doesn't mean to say that you have nothing to do, because I suppose the onus is on the employer or the person processing the payroll to import a P2C file for that employee. So if you're not paying them, and revenue taxing the maternity benefit, you do still need to import in the amended P2C file.
Okay. Sorry, just bear with us there. Payslips by email. Who creates the passwords for the staff? Is it the employer or the employee?
I suppose I think it's probably better to ask the employees for a password that's unique to them. I just feel that if the employer is creating them, there may be a bit of a sequence between employee passwords, So I feel it's better to ask the employees for a password and use that.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Audrey. What happens if your current P35 spreadsheets are registering as zero balance?
The P30 spreadsheet would just show the liability for the year. It won't take payments into account, so I would be surprised if anybody has a zero balance. I don't know, maybe I'm misunderstanding.
You might just need a little more information regarding that. Is it the spreadsheet that's in the software, or is it the P35 file upload stage maybe? So I'm just trying a little bit more information regarding that, but we can certainly...
Absolutely.
Yeah. If I have an employee that I do want to be on my P35 ROS file, is there any way to omit his data?
Okay, so any employee that's on the payroll that has received a payment by default is going to be on the ROS P35. So I'm not sure of the exact situation here, but I mean, if somebody has been paid, they should be on the P35. I suppose to remove them from P35 is to zeroize the payment record. But again, maybe if you want to contact us directly, maybe in relation to that, we can just see exactly why they would or shouldn't, be on the P35, and we can advise then.
Okay. Do just inform me if there is a new P2C file coming in.
Okay, so a new P2C file, I mean, certainly P35 Modernization, the payroll software will be able to check for amendments. But until then, it's revenue that would be informing you about amended P2Cs. But we do hear from people that the emails don't always come through. So there's no harm in checking if there are amended P2Cs, but you should receive notification from.
Okay. I have a payment to the 4th of January and could not update the payroll as the date was outside of 2017. How would I process this?
Okay, I think this comes back to the period you're paying for and the pay date. And the pay date of the 4th of January 2018 is week 1 of 2018, regardless of when you're paying for. I mean, there should have already been 52, I mean, I'm not sure what day you pay on, but you should have had 52 pay days without getting to the, 52 pay days on 17. So we'd really have to look and see, I suppose, what happened all of those weeks into really to advise. But a payment on the 4th of January in revenue advice is week 117.
Thanks, Audrey. I'm just wondering about the illness benefit. We have an employee who is in receipt of illness benefit, but their tax credits have not been updated. So the monthly January payroll has been included with her full pay.
Yeah, I can get access to, I suppose, revenue or updating and cut-off points. It all depends on how in receipt of illness benefit. So I do have them, but if you didn't get it yet, I'd say it's just that revenue haven't issued that amended P2C file yet. As I said, it all depends on whether the claim starts and ends within a tax period, etc.
Okay, and if you have somebody in receipt of maternity benefit, still paying, and we are still paying them a reduced amount, will we have any due to
It goes back to the P2C file. There should be an amended P2C file in for that employee where the tax points have been reduced. And I suppose even more important when you're still paying them, that would be a report delay.
Okay. Is it only new employees with a first employment in the state who are obliged to register with one account?
Okay, I suppose revenue want everybody, all employees using my account, because really going forward, that's where they're going to get their, the equivalent of a P60, etc. So I mean, certainly for a registered job, revenue, say that should be done through my account. But I think we're all going to have to start using my account just to get our end of year statements and everything, because there'll be nothing coming from an employer at the end of the tax. We're under PAYE Modernization.
Okay. The correct number of insurable weeks have been entered due to late payment. Can this be amended at year end?
Sorry, I'm just reading that again. There is a way on the master file to adjust the number of insurable weeks. Maybe just if you wouldn't mind contacting us, you should have my email address, I think, on the email address you got in relation to the webinar. So if you want to email me about that, maybe, and just give some further information on that.
Okay, thank you. I just missed how to add an employee to the P35 that is not on my original pay list.
Okay, so it sounds like an employee who wasn't actually on the payroll, doesn't it? I suppose there's a couple of different options. One is, I suppose, if you're only using one pay frequency on the software, you could the pay frequency, and I'm not sure if the P35 has been submitted. No, I don't think so. And then they would automatically go through to the P35. Another option, I suppose, you set up the employee and adjust the master file then to take account of those figures. But then you do need to, calculate all the deductions and everything yourself. Again, if you maybe want to just email me on that, and I can advise further.
Okay, thanks, Audrey. And will P60s in 2019 be issued by the revenue?
Okay, so P60s, as we know, will be gone. All of the P forms will be gone. So there will be an end of year state within my account. The employee who wishes an account would log into my account and get it themselves. But yeah, there won't be a P60 as such, just an end of year state will be available within the revenue account.
Okay. Is it only possible to issue P45s and P60s in Irish?
Have the Irish payslip.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have an Irish P45.
No, what we do have on the online documentation is a help sheet. So there's actually a variety of languages on there actually, where we've got the kind of the payslip translated and all the payroll terms and things. It's the online documentation there, so that might be something that you could use. Mm-hmm. Okay. Sorry, just bear with us. We do have a few comments in that the sound has been probably a little bit poor in places, so apologies for that. I'm not sure what has happened there. If you have experienced difficulties there, we are recording this session, so we will send a recording over to you. The recording should be perfectly fine. And also we're going to be sending it on as well. So anybody who I know somebody said, just mentioned that they missed the start of the webinar as well. So just give us a little bit of time to get that webinar ready, and we'll be emailing that over to you later. Okay. So if I have an employee that I do not want him to be my P35 ROS file, is there any way to omit his data? I would do a supplementary, but can I omit this person from the Thesaurus ROS file?
I think somebody's saying they don't want to reverse. Yeah, so there is zero-wise an employee record. So if somebody genuinely is on your payroll and hasn't, there is a way of amending the master file and zero-wising that record. That's not going to change a record of the P30, so the P30 then won't balance with the P35. But again, if you wouldn't mind just dropping me an email on that, and I can certainly send the instructions across to you. Okay.
That's great, thanks, Laura. So that's all the questions, I think. I'm just looking down. Yep, we've covered everything there. Just to finish up, before we let you go, just the final slide here. We do have the Audrey's just mentioned Payroll Modernization, just over a couple of slides. What we're doing tomorrow and on Thursday, we do have a dedicated webinar. Tomorrow is for employers, so if you're a single employer and you would like to know how POA modernization is going to affect your payroll processing, that's going to be taking place at 11 o'clock tomorrow. And we also have a guest speaker. We have Sinead Sweeney from the Revenue Commissioners, who's going to be talking on that webinar as well for you. If you're a bureau and you require, we do have a CPD webinar equivalent then taking place on Thursday at it's very much the same webinar as it is for the single employers there, very much the same content. And again, if you're in a bureau environment, for example, and you wish to run that one, please do sign up for that. You can sign up on our website there as well. Okay, sorry, just a question. Will tomorrow's webinar be recorded for employers? Yeah, do sign up. If you can't attend for whatever reason, we do send the recording on to anybody who was registered for it. Okay, so thank you very much for joining this morning, and we will let you go now. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.